Welcome back to the nurseand.com podcast and audiobook reading. We're going to be jumping into chapter 2 of the Mental Files. Book 1 is Sheep Among Wolves. And this series is out on Amazon. Book 1 is Sheep Among Wolves. Book 2 is The Mental Files, Dr. John Doe. Book 3 is The Mental Files, A Tent Under the Bridge. Book 4 is the Trilogy Edition. Book 5 is just released, and it is Defenders of the Week. And Book 6, I just put out also, so you can get all 4 stories in one, and that is the Mental Files Series Collection Edition. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into Chapter 2. And if you missed Chapter 1, go back to podcast episode 1 if you'd like to hear it. And then, after the stories, I'm going to break it apart as it relates to our own life drama and inner thought struggles and strongholds. Last week, we talked about Chapter 1. You met Julie. She was fending for herself out on the street with the danger, all along having the ravaging hallucinations trying to take over her mind. And then Officer Leon and caseworker Lita were able to get her to the ER. And then we broke it apart and also talked about people that have lives of trauma and abuse and trauma-informed care and that whole system, and being advocates for others. So we'll go ahead and jump into Chapter 2. So ride along on this compelling journey, faced with danger, drama, suspense, action, romance, faith, and inspiration. The Mental Files. Book 1, Sheep Among Wolves by Nurse Anne. Chapter 2. Emergency room drama. As the officer went to find a wheelchair after he parked at the emergency room entrance, the caseworker tried to convince Julie that everything was going to be all right. Secretly, Lita wondered if it really would be all right. Worried about how crowded the waiting room looked, Lita knew that she could only stay a little while with the childlike patient. Mobile Crisis Dispatch had already told her that she was needed on the bridge for another client who was contemplating the unthinkable. Although she loved her job as a mental health caseworker, she just wished she had more time with her individual clients. Knowing that Julie would be overwhelmed by the crowded waiting room, she asked for a blanket to put over the young lady's hands before everyone saw the handcuffs. Unfortunately, it was too late. Bored, sick, and angry patients and visitors in the waiting room had already seen the strange young lady in cuffs. As all eyes turned toward Julie, she tried to hide her face with the blanket. Overwhelmed and paranoid, Julie cried out, "I didn't do anything! I didn't do anything!" As Officer Leon explained the story to the triage nurse, Julie's caseworker tried to stay close by the girl's side while she still had a few minutes with her. "Okay, we've got it from here," announced the experienced triage nurse as she wheeled the young lady into the quiet room to get her blood pressure. "Thanks a lot, Officer Leon. You can take off the handcuffs now," explained the triage nurse Kylina. "Yeah, thanks a lot, Officer Leon. I've got it from here, too," offered the hospital security officer Marcos. During the triage process, Julie yelled out, "I have to go to the bathroom! I have to go to the bathroom! I can't wait!" Grabbing a container to get a sample from the young lady, the nurse guided her to the patient restroom. "Please get a sample, Julie," asked the seasoned nurse, "and I'll be waiting right outside of the door." Feeling relieved to finally have a moment alone and the handcuffs off so she could get a sample, Julie complied with the request, faintly knowing in her confused mind that maybe this was her chance. Coming out of the bathroom, Julie pretended to sit back in the wheelchair as the nurse turned aside for a moment to grab the sample in the cup. Remembering enough from previous hospital visits, Julie thought, "Now is the time. I have to do something now." Taking her opportunity, Julie made a run for it. Kylina and Marcos chased her back through the crowded waiting room as everyone turned around to watch the show. As the staff grabbed her right before she made it out the door, the confused young girl started to kick, scream, and bite. "Leave me alone! I didn't do anything!" screamed the patient. "Julie, we just want to help you," offered the nurse. "No, you're a demon. Get off me. Somebody help," yelled the cornered girl. Before she could reach up and try to punch and scratch her way out of the impending confinement, the staff already had her down. As the staff carried her to the ER psych room, the next thing she knew, Julie felt the pain of a needle going through her skin. "No," she cried. "I don't want that stuff. It's evil. Leave me alone. Leave me alone." But it was too late. The medicine had made its way into her malnourished body. It wasn't long before she started feeling that familiar, drowsy feeling. Giving in to the much-needed sleep, she could hear the voices in her brain laughing at her and taunting her. Justin, the emergency room technician who was assigned to watch her, talked with Julie's nurse about the test results that were processed from the sample. "Well, at least her drug screen was negative," said Nurse Kylina. "But I wish I could say that for her pregnancy test." "What? No way," replied the shocked ER technician. Hours later, when a bed finally opened on the psychiatric unit, Kylina called report to Nurse Angela, who worked at the hospital's psychiatric unit, which was located on the 5th floor of the bustling inner city hospital. Hearing the news about her regular patient, Julie, Angela's heart dropped in sadness as she heard about the positive pregnancy test. "We'll send her up to your unit as soon as the transportation officer is available," offered the reporting nurse who was also a friend of Nurse Angela. "Okay, thanks. I'll get her bed ready. I've been wondering if Julie was doing okay ever since we sent her to that boarding home a few months ago," answered the mental health nurse. She hoped a good night of sleep in a clean bed would do the homeless girl some good. Julie started to wake up as her dose of medicine began to wear off. She could hear Nurse Kylina talking about her to the transport officer. "Nurse Angela is expecting her on the psychiatric unit," reported the ER nurse. "But please be careful when you transport her. Unfortunately, we found out that she's going to have a baby." "You're lying!" screamed Julie as she overheard the report. "I don't have a baby. I'm not having a baby. You're lying. Stop lying. You're evil!" screamed the bewildered patient. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3 is Man on the Bridge that we will pick up on the next podcast. Now we're going to break apart Chapter 2 and talk about real life and also get some biblical prescriptions and have a word puzzle to break that down. As we all know, no one wants to be in a crowded waiting room, in an emergency room, or anywhere else, especially someone with a chronic condition, whether mental, physical, or spiritual, or a combination of all three. And a lot of people that are caught up in the system of having to go to the hospital a lot. Maybe sometimes you're not even able to work. You might be homebound or hospital bound a lot. You can feel stuck. A lot of people also may have labels placed on them with their diagnosis or their illness where people look at them differently, and sometimes they might feel like they're stuck in a box, but you're more than a label. And God loves you, and you do have life, and you do have things that you can do. And that leads me to an interesting word puzzle related to that. I'll let you go ahead and spin that wheel. We'll get to that word puzzle. Go ahead, spin. Come on. Spin that wheel. Our word puzzle is neural plasticity. Very interesting words, a great concept. It has to do with the regeneration of the brain, making new circuits, new pathways for learning. You can continue no matter what you feel you're stuck in, no matter what's happened to you, your diagnosis, even your illness, your brain is continually regenerating and making those new circuits, those new pathways. So don't ever give up learning and trying new things, even if you feel like you're stuck. Maybe you're stuck at home. There's creative things that you still can do. And you might even be able to have that. That's part of my heart book on the nurseann.com website, where it's going to be a ministry to help those who feel homebound and not able to contribute, even maybe if they have a chronic or terminal illness, where they can leave their legacy, do some artwork, some poems, some comedy, some creativity, write a book, a story, whatever. And then you could post that, maybe collect donations, or one day be able to sell your work, or even just to leave that legacy. Neuroplasticity. Don't forget that you can always continue to grow and learn. And thinking once again also about the master neuroscientist himself, the Lord, he says in Jeremiah that if we call to him and ask him, that he's going to continue to teach us and show us great and mighty things that we didn't even know about before. So keep on praying, spending that quiet time, and you're going to be given creativity for answers, be shown things that you did not know before. So your brain and your heart can continue to grow and learn. So far we've done chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the Mental Files, book 1, Sheep Among Wolves. Next time we're going to do chapter 3 and break that apart as it relates to life with a new word puzzle and some more fun. And on the nurseann.com website, we're also going to get into the healthy eating tab. There's a nurse's station, a heart book, so much there if you want to go there and check it out. But in the meantime, if you want to get caught up on that book series, The Mental Files, it's on Amazon on paperback and Kindle, and here, the audiobook for free. And that series, as I said, is The Mental Files by Nurse Ann. That's Ann with an E. Book 1 is Sheep Among Wolves. You're going to meet the young lady trying to fend for herself with all the danger on the street, and see the frontline workers as they try to rescue those in crisis, mental, physical, and spiritual. And what role does God play in the outcome? These shifts are 24/7. You want to buckle up for that compelling ride filled with suspense, action, danger, romance, faith, and inspiration. And then book 2 is Dr. John Doe. Why is the elderly man running in traffic, screaming he's a doctor? Who is he really? Can the healthcare workers, the frontline workers, even find out? Can they find any family? And then see what happens with the relationship drama of the characters, whether they progress their relationships further or their old habits continue to cause frustration. And what about the young man caught up in the life of danger? You'll find out more about him in book 2. And then book 3 is A Tent Under the Bridge. Going to highlight homelessness and advocacy and find out why Abigail chooses to live in her tent under the bridge as opposed to what the healthcare workers are offering her. Why is she choosing that? And will her long-lost daughter ever be able to forgive her? Continue that. See if the ministry team and the city organization can help the homeless get them off the streets, and who is trying to block that, and why are they trying to block that? More danger in the series. And then book 4 is the trilogy. Book 5 is just out, Defenders of the Weak. Meet a young lady who's getting bullied, especially online, and see how she handles that anxiety and mental health crisis. And can she help someone with a similar struggle? Come along for the ride, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Oh, and don't forget, book 6 of the Mental Files is the series collection edition. You can get all the complete stories in one spot.